Well, listen, you know what? Let's get right into the big topic of the show, folks. And again, both subjects that we're going to be covering today are pretty lengthy, and they have a lot of girth. Pause.
Oh boy.
But what we wanted to open up with is what's been going on with Xbox. And again, this is one of those open-ended conversations where there's no wrong or right answer. And each of the members in the chat, of course, are going to, say your piece. Again, as a matter of fact, we're a week to the day that all of the layoffs and cancellations were announced. If you remember last week, I was a bit emotional, and I gave the righteous smoke to Xbox, and more specifically to Microsoft, because they're the ones that are really pulling the strings. And I thought, and I still think to this day, it was well-deserved smoke. But we have been a week removed, and since then, there's been a lot of information that's come out, regarding Perfect Dark and whether or not the game vertical slice that they showed us was real, was it fake, was it choreographed. You heard one developer say, no, that's the level, that's how you played it, but it really wasn't a level. There was a lot of layers to it. This is where Kay Asante and I are kind of on opposite sides, because I think for me personally, like, one of the biggest gut punches was Perfect Dark, because I like the character. I think Joanna Dark is an amazing character. I think the world that she is in, and then she only had 2 games, right? You go all the way back to the N64, and then of course the 360 launch game, which really wasn't that good, but it was serviceable. Like, I played it, I beat it. But that wasn't the only piece. Obviously what happened with Everwild, I mean, it's just bad management, folks. Ultimately, this is all bad management. The question is, who's to really blame here? Like, who is watching what these studios are doing? Well, ultimately, that's Matt Booty, ladies and gentlemen. And again, we don't know what the ramifications of studio closures and game cancellations. We know that costs millions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars. But it did not end there. Right. And the minute Xbox steps on a rake, and they do that quite often, gentlemen in chat, the sharks start to, I would even say not sharks. Well, the sharks are circling, or the vultures are circling, because all they want to do is pick on the bones of Xbox and use it as an opportunity to do what they do best, and that's grift. And one of the stories that came out, Hargeet Chani, was the unsustainability of Xbox Game Pass. And that started actually with a gentleman that used to work for Arcane Studios. He was one of the founding members of Arcane. He left the studio in 2017 and has not been back since. He came out and he said some things about Game Pass being, bad for the industry and, unsustainable, and it's hurting developers, and there was a lot of stuff. And of course, you heard my spiel already yesterday talking about Christopher Dring and his nonsense. And I just wonder when, like some of the gaming journalistic, avenues are going to stop taking this guy serious. Like, the guy literally talks out the side of his neck, and he hasn't gotten anything right yet. Like, he literally continuously gets it wrong, and people still run with the guy's shit. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, and again, don't want to throw any, websites under the bus, because, we don't like the names thing here. We occasionally have to name people because we have to talk about, Christopher Dring's shenanigans. So there is a name drop there, but that's for complete context. The one thing, Hargeet, that I keep seeing from, and look, I'm going to be fair here. I have seen it on both sides, Hargeet. What I'm talking about is the word trust, right? Trust seems to be a little shaken when you're talking about Xbox after what happened, right? Now, one of the conversations that I've seen is, and even Kay Asante, we're going to get into what me and Kay had to say, is, well, if they canceled Perfect Dark, they canceled the unannounced MMO that apparently Phil Spencer was playing like a madman. He loved it. And that's the one from the ZeniMax Online, right? That was canceled. You obviously had Everwild, which that game has been in development for, I want to say it's got to be about 6 or 7 years, maybe more than that. And you had, Rare not know what it was, which is just bonkers to me, right? And the question that keeps getting asked within the community, and again, I'm being fair, there are actual Xbox gamers asking the question, but there is a subset of haters, grifters, and trolls that are asking the same question. So we know that they're being, facetious, but some of the Xbox community that's asking this question is legit. And that question is, well, if they canceled those games, how could we trust that something like State of Decay 3, which skipped the showcase, is safe? Well, I know Jez Corden investigated it, and he literally reported that both the studio and the game are good, but some people are not happy with that. So, obviously you saw it with when I did the advertising for tonight's show. The big question is, how does Phil, Sarah, Matt, and Team Xbox regain the trust of the Xbox community after what happened last week, which kind of really, again, it's one of those things that are with the community a little bit.
Look, could any of those games be canceled? Of course they could be, right? It's up to those studios to actually make the game and make it happen, right? So ultimately, I don't know what trust necessarily means. They're putting out games. Some of these are things we don't know about, right? ZeniMax online game is it's all rumors. We don't actually know anything because, well, we're just getting, hey, this happened at a studio. Okay. What was that game? I don't know. That was never announced. Something that maybe Phil liked. Okay. How do we know that's true? We don't. Right. So whatever that is, I don't know. Right. So we also heard the same thing from Naughty Dog when Factions 2, they internally play tested. They thought it was fantastic. They loved it. Did it come out?
No. Actually, the Bungie canceled that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So does that happen? Right. Okay. Well, are we seeing the same thing with that side of the aisle? Right. So, necessarily you should probably do that and say, well, should I trust Embracer? No, because they've canceled so many things. It's just the way it is. Should I trust PlayStation? No, because they've canceled so many things. They put out a game and canceled it in 10 days.
Yeah.
Right. So should I trust them? No. You can't trust any company because ultimately they will do what makes sense for their bottom line. So I don't know what else to really say. If there's an assumption, maybe we were under this false assumption that PlayStation plays for money and Xbox plays for fans. Well, that's not true. They play for money as well. They're just trying to make money by giving you stuff you want. That's it. There's really not much more to it. But apparently people seem to think otherwise, and I don't know where that comes from. They've always been. It's not a $3.5 trillion company because they give things away. They make money. They're the only OS you have to buy. Everybody else just includes it. It is what it is. It's just a different world. They freaking charge you for everything. Why would this be confusing that they want to make money? It's not like the other side isn't doing the same thing. It's not like Nintendo doesn't do the same thing. They make money. That's it. They want to sell stuff. They want to make money. That's the whole point. Why do you think they sue people for freaking putting up emulators and you put up content that we don't know? We want people to buy the game instead of watch the game. No, this is the way it is. Every company is an asshole to some level. That's just the way it is. So can you trust them? No, you can't trust anybody. You can't. That's not the game here. They will put out what they put out. If you have it in your hands, you have it. Even that doesn't necessarily matter because you always have this. So it doesn't necessarily always matter. They could kill whatever they want to. Right? You can still play freaking Redfall, but you can't play this. Okay. Could Redfall die? Sure. It could. Again, the trust thing, I don't know, man. Maybe people have these ideas that I just don't. I've dealt with business my entire life. This is just the way it is.
Yeah.
You can't trust a damn thing. Like, it just is what it is, right? I don't know. I don't know how where all that comes from. Maybe people like thought Phil was this ultra uber nice guy and he doesn't have to like give money back to Microsoft or something. No, that's not the way it works. He is just as on the hook as PlayStation is, as Nintendo is to its shareholders, as EA is, as whoever, right? They all have to eventually make money. That's it. They have to make money. So the trust thing is just, and every time Xbox sneezes, oh my God, Xbox dead. Oh
yeah, it's
like,
true.
It just doesn't stop. Like, the same thing will happen with Sony. They'll have a 10% layoff, and Xbox will have a 10% layoff, and it's like, oh, they killed gaming. It's all over. How dare they? And like, dude, like, why didn't you have this energy when Sony did that? Because it doesn't matter.
Look, whether you call it Xbox tax or whether you call it moving the goalpost or somewhere in the middle, there is obviously a different ratio for each company. Nintendo is untouchable no matter what they do, which I disagree with. I think
love that's
Nintendo,
hopefully starting to change with the $80 games and the $450 console. Hopefully that is starting to change. But you're right, Nintendo is kind of in that untouchable category. They just get away with anything. So,
look, again,
it's sad.
It's sad because Hargy, Nintendo released a new console, which I'm very much enjoying. But let's call a spade a spade. It was a very light first-party release.
Yep.
Like at launch. It was. It had one game and one downloadable game that nobody bought. I bought it because I like racers, right? But and of course the peripherals, they all went up a couple of bucks because of the tariffs thing. And they got a little smoke, but everyone forgot about it. $80 games, people, forgot about it. Sony hasn't put out a first-party game that's not multi-plat this year. Now, they do have one coming out. As a matter of fact, it's tomorrow. They have their State of Play for Ghost of Yotai. And don't get me wrong, that's a day one purchase for me. That's not even a question. I can't wait to play that game. I loved Ghost of Tsushima. I know I'm going to love this. But
I hope it's good. But
it's one game, ladies and gentlemen.
And to be fair, they would consider Death Stranding 2 published by PlayStation as a first party, even though it really isn't.
That is true.
And then Lost Soulside, I think that's the other one that's coming.
That might be a PlayStation.
And that might be published by PlayStation.
Right.
And they might consider that first party. Fair enough. It's like Ninja Gaiden is totally not an Xbox game, but it is being considered first party because it's being published by Xbox.
Yeah. So, again, it's like PlayStation is super light this year. There's a good chance they're going to be super light next year as well. They've done some egregious things, and no one talks about it. Xbox is the one that is on the hook for everything that's wrong with gaming, everything. Of course, Game Pass was, thrown under the bus. We got some new numbers. Matt Piscatella came out and basically said that the subscription service has grown exponentially, and I wonder why that is. Something I've been beating the drum on for quite a while, and that's because, everything's expensive. So people are being less inclined to spend $76.43 on a game that they're probably going to trade in to get $2 from GameStop. So it's people are not buying as many games because they quite frankly can't afford it. I don't know where else.
If you want to talk about that specific thing, about the whole stupid thing about Game Pass.
We can get into it. Again, this is an open-ended conversation. So again, of course, if you want to, harken back to what we opened up with, talking about how Xbox Game Pass, because and that's the thing that drives me crazy, and I think it drives you crazy as well. Yes, you are going to have developers and smaller studios that don't like it. That is okay. They don't have to be a part of Xbox Game Pass. They can voice their opinions and say that they don't like that. It's okay. Not everyone is going to like the service, but to turn around and have a handful of developers or studio owners that may or may not even be a part of the business anymore say that it's unsustainable and it's bad. And we know that it's not. We know that it's not because we've had so many amazing stories of smaller teams get their game onto Game Pass and have tremendous amount of sales as well as players. So, I mean, again, if you want to address that, by all means, because, again, Xbox Game Pass bad, it almost goes hand in hand with Xbox bad news.
Yeah, it's the standard thing of how do we make Xbox not exist, and that really is it. It's a whole insecurity thing of people who have chosen PlayStation as their main. Because I don't necessarily hear this from Nintendo fans. You know why? Because they have Nintendo. They don't care. They play their games. They go buy it and they have fun, right? You don't really even need to talk about freaking Xbox or PlayStation if you're a Nintendo fan, because you're eating whatever you need to eat, right? They put out their games and everybody buys them, and they make their billions and billions in profit, and they're happy. If third parties come, they come. That's just the way it is. But it's PlayStation. It's PlayStation who has this insecurity because, well, they can't compete to the same level as far as output as far as number of games, right? And value. It's obvious. It's so much better to have Game Pass than it is to have PS Plus Extra or Premium, even though those are growing according to PlayStation's last financial roundtable that they did. That is growing, right? So Nishino's saying, hey, those are growing pretty well. They're going to try to make them even more compelling by putting in day and date third-party games.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Who did that first?
How is this possible? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, look at that.
They're going to destroy gaming, Boom. How are they doing this? This is going to destroy. Come on, guys. Like, it's so baloney. So, all this fake bull crap. If PlayStation had come up with the Game Pass model, it would be the best thing that's ever happened to gaming. Now it's the worst thing that's ever happened because it's being done by Xbox. Let's just face facts. It just is what it is. It's this massive insecurity. Just stop. Why do you have to worry how Phil Spencer reports to freaking Amy Hood or Satya Nadella? It's not your job. Their financials are good enough that they're continuing. That's it. That's all you have to worry about. Game Pass is 15% of their service, whatever their revenue for the content side. 85% is coming elsewhere. Are they happy? They're happy. What do you want? Like, just leave it alone. Are you going to get everything? No. Sometimes things like Perfect Dark happen. Why? It's taking too long. It's not going to bring back the returns, and they're like, this isn't helping us, so we're gonna stop it. Everwild, you had your chance, Rare. It's been like forever.
Yep.
Right. So, like, what do you want? Right. That concept probably started after, they released Sea of Thieves, which is 2019. Is that right? Something like that. 2018, 19. I think it was 19. Right. So 2019, 2020, how long before you even get a game loop? Like, come on. And it's Rare. This is the part that really annoys me. It's a company that's literally been around forever in gaming. They should know how to make a game, and they didn't even make the game loop first. Whatever. Fine. Big L on that one. It is what it is, but that is totally on Rare. They should have had that like by now, at least a good 3/4 of the way done and ready to roll, and it had something useful there. And whatever, that's on them. Other games, doesn't matter if you're having fun. It just matters if it's viable to finish it or not, right? If Zenny had to take effort away from ESO or Fallout 76, which are working, and say, oh, hey, could we like slow those down to make this? And it'll take us 4 years. And like, no, no, we want those ESO updates because that makes us money every year. Yeah. So we'll get that instead. Thank you. Hey, it is what it is, right? So you talk about how they sustain their bottom line. They sell you freaking expansions to their games. It's called live service. That thing that Sony's so desperate to have. They have that. they have that. Okay, that's how that works. So, too bad. It sucks that they couldn't get their other game. Maybe they do at some point, right? But for now, Phil's got to return X amount % of freaking profit, and that's what he's doing. And Game Pass is a part of that deal, and you don't have to worry about it. You know who does have to worry about it? Phil. So, if Phil says it's working for him, you don't need to worry about it.
It's also interesting.
We're good.
Yeah, well, what's I find very interesting. That this should be common sense news, but I saw a tweet from Paris Lilly, And he actually said that the way Satya Nadella has been chopping things that don't work, if Game Pass did not work,
They'd have killed it.
They would have ended it years ago.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He wants it. You know why? It's tied to his cloud. And what does Satya Nadella want more than anything? Is cloud.
Cloud gaming.
He wants cloud. That's why he wants this whole thing. So it ain't going anywhere because it's got cloud attached to it. So, but anyway, whatever. The other thing is looking at, and I'm trying to get the wording of this right, but he asked if there was like a profitability for, from Game Pass going towards the studios based on lost sales because it's in Game Pass. And it's like, dude, that's not how it works. If you work for a company, no matter what your output is, you don't make profits. Your company does. That's just the way it is. So if Naughty Dog makes $1 billion off of Last of Us 2, they didn't make $1 billion. PlayStation and Sony made that money. They paid their employees a salary. They may have great incentive bonuses and stuff like that, but they do not get profits. So no studio owned by these platforms is profitable because they're not making the profit. The company is making the profit.
I thought that was very odd.
Why ask that question? It's not about that. It's a bottom line sunk cost for them to have these things. If you take, for instance, the shift from Hiroki Totoki on the Sony side to say, hey, our studios will no longer be, I'm going to try to get the wording right, enablers and marketing tools for the platform and instead be profit drivers. I believe those were the words that were used. It's because that is what these were, right? They take the hit because they assume this will have people come to the platform, right? And they were funding it. How Jim Ryan said, with Call of Duty. That's how they were funding it. Remember all that stuff, guys? So who is profitable, who is not profitable? Not your problem. Do they make enough money so that the corporation's happy? You're done. You don't have to worry about that. So the whole idea of why you need to worry about sustainability of any of these services, how does forget Game Pass. How does PlayStation Plus Extra work? How do they manage to put games in there? How are they paying for this? Why do I care?
I know.
What do I get? That's all that matters to me. What do I get? Am I going to pay for this or not? Is it valuable to me or not? Should I worry if Ubisoft Plus makes money for them or not? No, I get it if it has value to me. It's their problem to figure out their sustainability. That's not my problem. That's an accountant's headache. Let them figure it out, right? I'm just I'm not sure why this keeps coming up. It'd be one thing if it was like this financial genius comes up and says, well, I analyzed the entire market and this, okay, fine, right? You know who does that kind of thing? That's what Wall Street does.
Yes.
Is Wall Street saying, Microsoft, you're doing bad? No, they keep investing more. Their market caps keep shooting up and up and up and up. By the way, so is Sony's. So why am I worried? Tell me where the issue is. I don't care. It's not my problem. If PlayStation is making money or if Xbox is making money, that's those corporations' problem. I'm a consumer. By the way, I'm also an investor, so in some ways I do care, but I'll put that aside.
Yeah, and I mean, again, just all jokes aside, at the end of the day, as a gamer, as someone that likes Xbox, as someone that subscribes to Xbox Game Pass, do you care if Microsoft made any money? No, you want to know what the next slate of Xbox games or third-party, indie, second-party, or first-party games are going into the service. That's what you want to know.
Yeah, and does anybody question Ubisoft Plus? I haven't seen those articles. I haven't seen the big
no.
How do they make money? Boom, how do they make money? How can they give it away for that little? I don't understand. Like, who cares? If you subscribe, you get the game. That's all that matters. Who's doing that analysis? Nobody cares. Is Ubisoft in financial trouble? Yes. Is anybody sitting there going, it's Ubisoft Plus's fault? It's all Ubisoft Plus's fault. I can't believe they do. No, because nobody gives a shit. It's his all insecurity that Xbox is doing something and they don't like it. That's it. That's all it is. It's such a bunch of crap.
No, it ultimately is. But again, it's just one of those things that I find so odd that, and again, folks, no one is trying to remove blame or the spotlight for the rake stepping that Xbox does to itself, right? Now, we knew about these cuts and we knew it was going to be bad, and it was bad. They canceled multiple games, and a lot of people lost their jobs. So ultimately, they should get the smoke, man. And no one's suggesting that they shouldn't. But I'm always just perplexed, Asante, how it goes from the situation to immediately how Xbox Game Pass has ruined everything about gaming because they're non-traditional. Folks, Circana, which of course what's
not
his name?
That black hole games. That's not what's doing
that.
it.
That
plays. That's not
ultimately, yes, the black hole games or the free-to-play games like Apex, like PUBG, like Fortnite, like Marvel Rivals. These games can be played for hours, hundreds, thousands of hours, and never spend a singular dime. That's why people aren't buying. That's why you saw that report last week. Younger people are spending 30+%. No kidding. If the adults don't have the money, the kids are going to play. They're going to play what their friends are playing, and that, of course, is free to play. But Kay, this is one of those open-ended conversations, and I know you want to go and you want to talk about some smoke, right? Now, obviously, you have a great DM, and I want you to kind of promote that because a lot of people are starting to flock to it. It's a bunch of great gamers hanging out in there. I've been in there a couple of times. I'm definitely the oldest man there, and it's fine. But
not true. There's some old heads in there. Don't worry about it.
We were having a phenomenal conversation this morning, and you think that there is smoke to be had at leadership.
Well, okay. So let me be a bit more specific about it, because since you and I have talked about it, I've had a chance to really think about it and crystallize my thoughts a bit on it, right?
Excellent.
So I want to be clear on this, right? Like you, during that time, I felt like there was a lot of smoke to go around because they handled it in a very haphazard way. There was a lot of and bro, the spawn camping, come on, what you camping, bro? That's just me.
I'm defending my post. Look.
Anyway, this man anyway. So after with some hindsight, with some time removed, you can kind of, while I don't agree and I don't condone and on any of that, obviously, you can kind of see from a business perspective why certain decisions were made, right? As despicable as business can be sometimes, people losing their jobs, all that, it's par for the course here. It is what it is, right? Where I was, and this is where Boom and I disagree, where I was, where I sit in this whole soup of various events that have occurred is with Perfect Dark. And it's not to say that Perfect Dark being canceled means something, or that, oh my God, they canceled something, so that's a big deal, or we can't trust them. That none of that. That's not me. Okay. And I know some have been coming with that argument. That's not me. My argument, my question is, what happened? And I'll explain exactly what I mean by that. Okay. When they're making a game, and this is, TLDR, kind of high level. I'm using an analogy because I find that works best. When they're making a game, imagine there being a pizza that's being built, and eventually you will eat that pizza. That'll be the retail done pie, right? But because that takes years to make, right, in order to show you something at an event of some kind, right, they'll make a vertical slice or the whole pie, right? They'll take a sliver of that pie and they'll clean that part up enough to where, the behind closed doors or trailers could be cut from it or things like that, right? I've been instances where I've been lucky enough to be able to go see some of those things, right? But in all of those instances, you definitely get a sense that there's the pie, but this is the only piece that you are allowed to play with because the other parts aren't ready yet, right? More and more, it is coming out, or it's starting to look like there was no pie with Perfect Dark after X amount of years of development. Now, let's also be fair in saying that it was rebooted, because you would imagine it was rebooted after Crystal Dynamics took over, because before then it was a different game. Supposedly they had played it end to end, it was playable, all this stuff. Crystal Dynamics took over, changed the scope a little bit. I think even the art style changed a bit, and there you go, right? So it didn't take that long. But last year, the vertical slice that we were shown was just that. And I feel like that requires a conversation, because that is borderline nefarious behavior, right? This was not a piece of a whole pie that we're cleaning up so that you can eventually have it. This eventually turned out to be the only thing they built was the vertical slice. So what happened in, I think Crystal Dynamic had for about 4 years. In 4 years of development time, what happened?
That's a great question.
I feel like that specifically is a question that needs answering. I get that. Oh, things get canceled all the time. B, understood, right? As much as an unpopular of an opinion as I think it may be, I kind of sort of understand what's going on with that whole Forza and what do you call it? And Turn 10 and playground games. I kind of get from a business perspective why they would do that. It sucks, and a lot of people got let go. It's all terrible. But I kind of, from a business perspective, see why someone would do what they would do with that, right? I get obviously you get why Everwild would be let go. All of that, in hindsight, when you sit down and you take some emotion out of it and you don't think with your gamer first brain, you can kind of understand why they're making those moves. All that being said, Perfect Dark specifically is an interesting use case, because I feel like it's the same kind of energy that we got back in the day when other folks were selling a bad bill of goods behind the scenes and weren't telling people, and eventually led to them being let go. I think something like that happened at 343, right? When certain deadlines weren't being met, and it was found out that someone was not really, they were talking a good game but weren't really like producing to the talk, right? I feel like some of that is here, because even though the canceling here, obviously they cancel it for righteous reasons. They're going to take so much more years in order to fulfill. We don't even know how many more potential budget would have to go in for it to become eventually a thing. So they had to make a decision. I get that, right? My question is, who allowed this to be like this for this long?
Yeah, good question.
Because the way, and let's be absolutely clear in what I'm saying here, right? The very first time we saw a Crystal Dynamic, a Perfect Dark renderer, it was just a mood piece, as they all do. I bet it wasn't even made in-house, as they all do, right? Hellblade 2. That first piece was not made by Ninja Theory. It was a mood piece, but then they worked to fill in the gaps because that's the vision they went for, and they exceeded that vision, right? So it's no one saying that, mood, it's got to be like we need to see your homework or whatever. But when you show us another one literally a year ago, right? Because the distance between that first one and the one a year ago was some time, right? And now you presumably have footage that almost has gameplay, which people got to play. All of that speaks to, hey, we've been working hard on this thing, and look at what we have to show you, and we're going to be done relatively soon, because look at the gameplay here, right? Only to come and find out that there were no scaffolding at all. All it was the smoke. That's all it was. I honestly think that this specific case is unique and requires some investigation. You know what I'm saying? Because this breeds mismanagement. It breeds a lot of oddities in this specific case. Because what they showed us was seemingly a project that was on the right track and seemingly more than half of the way done. What it looked like, right? And exactly like the way they showed us. What do you call it? Exactly the way they showed us. What's the name of the game that I was super excited about? Clockwork Revolution. Remember how they showed us Clockwork? The first day you saw Clockwork, wasn't that like a complete picture? You were like, wow, they could release this thing tomorrow. It looked complete, right? Now imagine they cancel that next year and say, and then you find out that it wasn't. It's odd. That's the only part. Because it had gone so long and because there was so much more shown, I'm kind of like, huh? That's just an unusual situation. And somebody was doing something weird there. That's the only part of it that makes me go, that requires a bit more investigation. Now, beyond that, everyone's got the righteous smoke for them. right? Everyone's got righteous smoke of some kind for them, and it's deserved, whether it be delivery of the message, whether it be, you know, them going back on their word or any of that. But business is going to business, right? And at the end of the day, for me, I've always been very transactional. That I say that and people don't get happy with me, but I've always been transactional. I only pay for what I see. I only pay for the value that I perceive right now, not the promise of value tomorrow. Right? You want to get my money tomorrow? Show me something cool tomorrow. I'll give you my money tomorrow. Today, I will give you my money for something cool today. And that's just me, you know.
I mean, listen, it's a great point all around. And eventually that question is probably going to be raised if it hasn't already been raised internally. You know, I know that you and I have, and a lot of people have asked this question. And I listen, I don't know his daily duties. I'm talking about Matt Booty. I would imagine, you know, he did get promoted. He is in charge of all of the Xbox Game Studios. So he has a lot on his plate. You know, there are questions like, you know, the Bethesda thing, that's still being handled with Bethesda. Like they're monitoring and policing.
You know what? One thing though, Boom, one piece of the puzzle that I really want to say that I haven't said, and I'm sorry, I need to say this because a good amount of my friends lost jobs because of all of this. I have some friends at Microsoft, and they lost jobs because of this. And by and large, when you look out there on the front street of all the various socials, what do they tell you? We are unfortunately the victims of a non-performance related, restructuring, this and that. All this non-performance related restructurings, and it's so sad. And really, really good, hardworking folks losing their jobs and this, that, and the third, right? There are some people within the Microsoft ranks, I won't name names, but I think you'll know where I'm going.
I know where you're going.
That have a spotty record, but they get to keep their job after this non-performance review, even though their record is literally spotty. How can they keep theirs while those who work hard, who don't have any blemishes on their record, have to go? I think it's unfair.
It is. Ultimately, it is. And you know what? When you told me that, because you obviously had it from within the source, you know, you actually had the source. To hear that is very disappointing because, you know, usually when someone loses a job, at least the way it's supposed to work, is you're losing the job because you could not perform at a certain level for that job. Right. So if you can't perform at that level, then you shouldn't have that job. A lot of the people that did lose their jobs did not lose
he's
their
laughing because he knows damn well that's not how it goes.
No, I know.
That's why he's
laughing. It all depends on who you know,
who your
manager is, and who you're connected to.
Yeah.
It does not. I'm sorry, but like if people think it's not political in companies as well, you're full of it. It's
Wonderland for you. Crap, no, I absolutely. I mean, listen, again, maybe this wasn't the for a lot of. First of all, I see the chat going back and forth, and a lot of people are really enjoying the conversation. So that makes me happy as a host because I think that these are the conversations that need to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Are they fun? I mean, to some extent, yeah. I mean, I think I've had fun talking about it, but I do think that these conversations need to occur. And again, you know, before we move on to the Tokyo Game Show stuff, and again, I have the article in front of me, and I want to. It's already up. It's already been attached to the show. I attached it today, so if you want to read it yourself, by all means, please go ahead. Any smoke for what happened with Christopher Dring and Xbox Game Pass not being profitable for like the 30th time since inception? It's crazy to me. I mean, listen. I'm an Xbox guy, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa, surprise. Oh, my God, I can't believe it. Boom, you shocked me. I thought you were a pony. No, I'm an Xbox. It's fine. But I never ask how much money Xbox is making because I don't give a shit. I don't care how much money they're making. You know what I care about? I care about adding more games to my backlog that I know I'll never play. And I go, like, for instance, there was a golf game, a mini golf game. Did I have to buy it? It was $4. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I like mini golf. Why not? I buy games all the freaking time. And I don't really care how much money Xbox makes. I don't. And I shouldn't. And neither should you. What you should care about is the service that you are paying for giving you the value? And again, this pitchfork and torches situation with Xbox Game Pass and the amount of hate and unbelievable conversation of how they just are hell-bent on seeing this service fail is mind-boggling, Kay. I've just never seen such a hate. You know, and Dirt Griggity, shout out to that man. That guy's been working. And if you're not already subscribed to him, please get over there and subscribe to his channel. Dirt Griggity is one of the best in the business, and his videos are great. Like, I watched, I think, the last video 3 times because he is just funny. And I love it when, you know, when he does the One Man Dark Man show. I love when he does his videos, and I love when he's with Shannon and the guys, because it's a fun podcast. But he said it in his last video, like the amount of journalists and the community members, they don't surprise me. They are who we thought that they were, Kay, and they're always going to be that way, right? But when you see the journalists getting on, you know, trying to get a bite out of this sandwich, it's a bit shocking, Kay.
Look, this whole thing with Xbox, like, profitability, it is the juice that's never ever the well that never dries, because there's always somebody ready to be outraged. There's always somebody ready to pick up the pitchforks and run with it. No matter how many ways, no matter how many times you flip it back and forth, there will always be somebody to, you know, toe that line and have a bunch of people follow along. They can say it in 1,000,001 ways. You will always find some way to be able to disbelieve them. Look, here's a quick story. For those in the States who remember, this was way before COVID, so it might have missed your mind, right? There used to be this movie service called Movie Pass. I was a huge fan of Movie Pass. Okay. For those who don't know, get this: $10 a month, unlimited movie tickets. That's right. Not, you know, X amount. No, unlimited movie tickets. What's the first thing I said? Okay, this thing ain't gonna last. Oh, hell yeah, this is over. But until it's over, we gonna ride this out. Watch so many damn movies, $10 a month. Watched sometimes went to like 15 movies in a month because you said I could do that.
Right.
Eventually, what happened? That thing went belly up, because every time you go to a movie, that's them buying the movie ticket for you. It was a bad business model. It eventually went belly up. But I say all this to say, was I sitting there going, well, is Movie Pass sustainable? It is not. We should be worried. We should have deliberations. Nah, fam, I was busy watching them movies before it was too late. That's what I was doing. Why do we care if this will eventually evaporate? Let's enjoy it until it does.
And obviously, based on some information that came the way of Matt Piscatella of Circana, that's not happening. As a matter of fact, there is record growth for not only Game Pass, but PlayStation or PSN or PS Plus, whatever you want to call it. Both services are growing exponentially.
And by the way, Boom, I actually am wrong in saying that it's bad or it's okay for it to die, because even in the Movie Pass example, once it died, it gave way to AMC Stubbs A-List, a more reasonable service that still gave you a damn good discount.
Yeah, and Regal
has one too now. Regal
now, right?
Yeah. So
exactly.
Which in the same example of new ones that, you know, equalized and said this is how we can sustain ourselves.
Which in the same example, look at PlayStation Plus. I know people clown it. Bro, it had Animal Well on it. 2 months.
They just got Cyberpunk, dude.
Cyberpunk, yeah. 2 months after it was available everywhere, it had freaking Dragon Age Veilguard. Yo, they weren't doing any of that until Game Pass was.
And
around.
You heard what Hargeet said. Literally, Sony's brass said we are going to be putting more day and date third party in there. Like, whoa.
There you go. Right.
Yep.
So even if people go, it's poison or this, that,
per
and the
year,
third,
they want to put in, and like, okay, that's good. So maybe you guys will start getting 1 or 2 day and dates, like, and that's because of competition. That's a good thing.
See, competition breeds.
So that's the idea. So the idea that Game Pass is bad for the industry, this, that, and the third, those are just sour grapes by people who were not the ones to either come up with the idea or get the have the benefit of the bag that Game Pass produces.
Not to mention for the developer who then can go pinging back and forth and say, oh,
Yes.
PlayStation offered this.
Now,
Xbox
but
offered
Hargeet,
this.
I will say, and this is a cheap plug to the Discord. If you end up liking it, join the Discord, GCP Discord.
Drop the link in the chat, brother, because people are asking for it right now.
Actually, it's actually quite easy. I can tell you right now. It's quite easy. We now have a custom Discord. It's discord.gg/The Gaming Circle Podcast. So discord.gg/TGCP.
There you go.
Very simple, right?
It's a great place to have a great conversation.
I bring it up because we had some developers in the house recently. I won't name names. If you're around, you happen to catch it. If you are not, hey, you missed it. But they were talking about Game Pass and what it looks like and how the times might be changing and all those interesting things. So it's not to say that Game Pass is this infinite, like endless wave of goodness that will continue to give nothing but bounty to the public forever. Look at Netflix. It's literally recreating the Netflix model. It used to be, they used to give a bunch of money to all these third parties. Then eventually they started making Stranger Things and started prioritizing their own stuff a little bit. So now those third parties may not be getting the same big old bags that they used to because they have to prioritize their own stuff. Right. But it's an interesting conversation to be had. Those who are quick to throw it out with the bathwater that like it's bad for the industry are kind of closed-minded.